After getting into the same university as my best friend, she went and kept the poor yet handsome campus heartthrob, while I turned around and took in the fragile school bully who worked as a bartender at night. Everyone mocked me, saying my taste was worse than hers after all. The school bully had a terrible temper. I sighed. A sick mother, a gambling father, a younger sister still in school, and a broken version of him. If I don't take care of him, who will? Everyone shut up. I was simply soft-hearted. Until one night, when Jessica Smith and I secretly went to a high-end club to check out some male models, and we overheard something from the VIP room upstairs. They called the poor campus heartthrob, young President Wilson, and the school bully, the crown prince of Beijing's elite circles. I went to Jessica's apartment to find her. The moment I opened the door, I saw her sitting on the sofa, lifting the campus heartthrob's chin with her fair foot. Oh? So $30,000 a month and you still think you can throw an attitude at your sponsor? Not even willing to give me a kiss? Disgusted by me? Fine, if you won't let me kiss you, then lick the milk off my foot. I swallowed hard. I could clearly see Samuel Wilson's humiliated expression as he turned his face away. Even his fingers, which were holding Jessica's ankle, were trembling. The veins on his forehead were about to pop. Sensing the tension, I quickly cut in. Jessica, what are you doing? The moment Jessica saw me, she kicked Samuel Wilson's shoulder, then wiped her foot off on his white shirt before putting on her shoes, and walking over to pull me into a hug. You're here. I glanced at the dark expression on Samuel Wilson's face and awkwardly nodded. But Jessica acted like she didn't notice at all. She arrogantly ordered Samuel Wilson to pour us tea. A proper golden canary should know his place. I nodded. My best friend was always right. But wasn't she super fond of Samuel Wilson just a while ago? She bought him a luxury car worth millions without a second thought. Did they have a fight? At the mention of this, Jessica sighed. Ugh, don't even bring it up. $30,000 a month. I even scrimped and saved to buy him so many gifts. And this little bastard still won't let me kiss him. And today, he was outside smiling brightly at some rich middle-aged woman. Does he really think I'm his simp? I nodded, sipping my juice. Jessica suddenly nudged my arm with a smirk. What about your boy? Michael Gray at the swimming pool the other day, that six-pack, that perky little ass-cough. Cough must have great stamina, right? Then, she pointed at the kiss mark behind my ear, looking resentful. You greedy little thing. I sighed. Don't even talk about it. His stamina is great, but his temper is even worse. Just because I talked to my senior for a few minutes this afternoon, he came back with red eyes and refused to talk to me. I spent forever trying to coax him, but he still wouldn't budge. Jessica clicked her tongue, glaring at Samuel Wilson's retreating figure. You shouldn't have taken him in. There are so many men on campus. Sure, Michael Gray is good looking, but his temper is absolute trash. He even nearly broke a guy's leg once. I had always known about Michael Gray's bad temper, but that night at the bar when I saw him selling drinks, his clothes soaked with alcohol as people laughed at him, his eyes were downcast. I couldn't bear to watch any longer. So I bought $500,000 worth of alcohol and took Michael Gray away. He looked so fragile, and I was too consumed by lust. I shoved a watermelon slice in his mouth and forced him to eat. His dazed, helpless eyes looked up at me, filled with shame and humiliation. His white dress shirt, soaked in alcohol, clung thinly to his skin. I actually thought he would hit me the next second. Terrified, I threatened him. If you dare lay a hand on me, I'll have the manager cancel my order. He stiffened. His lips pressed tightly together. Under the dim bar lights, he looked heartbreakingly beautiful. No one would have guessed that the arrogant school bully by day would be secretly bartending at night. After a moment's hesitation, he finally opened his lips and took small, slow bites of the watermelon. Later, I found out from the bar manager that he had a sick mother, a gambling father, and a younger sister still in school. I thought about how Jessica had kept the poor heartthrob. So why couldn't I keep a fragile and pitiful school bully? And so, in a moment of impulsiveness, I took in Michael Gray and kept him for 3 months. By then, everyone knew that Michael Gray was my kept little canary. Pretty, with a great body but way too arrogant. My classmates laughed at me, saying I had bad taste, because Michael Gray's temper was truly awful. But I remembered the way he looked under the purple bar lights that night, so delicate, so vulnerable. I scoffed. What do they know? This was a divine specimen, Jessica. And I got even angrier thinking about how we were the ones keeping them. Yet we still had to coax and flatter them. Frustrated, Jessica patted my shoulder. Forget it. Tonight, I'll take you somewhere with more obedient ones. If they won't behave, we'll just find new ones. I nodded in agreement. The only problem was we were both kind of broke. Jessica's club of choice was one of the most expensive places in hiking, So I had no choice but to call my dad for money. He sounded confused. Didn't I just give you $300,000? How is it already gone? Where did you spend it? It was clean money. But when he asked where it went, I stammered and mumbled something vague about school expenses. My dad grumbled but still transferred me more. Jessica secured her funds too. We hopped into a car and headed straight for Haiching's most exclusive club. After going upstairs, Jessica and I waved our hands generously and picked the smallest suite in the corner of the top floor. Once inside, a group of handsome male models immediately started pouring us tea, massaging our shoulders and calling us sis with sweet voices. Our frustrations with Michael Gray and Samuel Wilson instantly disappeared. Jessica turned to me and asked, "Are you breaking up?" I nodded. "If you are, I am." She slapped her thigh. "Spending money to take care of ancestors, who the hell wants that? Break up." So, she sent a text to Samuel Wilson first, "Let's break up." I didn't hesitate either. I snapped a photo of a male model cutting fruit in our private suite and sent it to Michael Gray. Then, I called him. "Let's break up. I'm bored of you." On the other end, Michael Gray let out a cold laugh. "You too." I hung up without hesitation. On our way out, we hummed a little tune. When we passed suite 888, we suddenly heard Samuel Wilson's mocking voice from inside. "Oh, you got dumped too." The next second, a loud crash. A table was kicked over, followed by the sharp sound of shattering glass. "Shut up." It was Michael Gray's voice. Jessica and I exchanged glances and stealthily pushed the door open. From the doorway, we saw everything inside. Samuel Wilson was ruthless. "I told you stop playing hard to get. Look what happened. She got bored of you." Michael Gray lifted his head and shot him a cold, mocking glare. "TCH. And you think you're any better? If we're talking about playing hard to get, no one does it better than you. You haven't even kissed her once, just stringing her along." Samuel Wilson snapped. "Oh, please. At least I didn't get dumped because I worked so hard in bed. Did you see the photo Morris sent? She's out there hiring male models. So, let's not act high and mighty here." Michael Gray's face grew darker and darker. Someone next to them tried to break the tension. "Young President Wilson, maybe you should stop talking." Another person lowered their voice. "Don't forget this guy is practically royalty in Beijing's elite circles." "Yeah, and the Gray family status, stop talking." Michael Gray ignored them all. His face was filled with pure frustration. "I swear, I'm going to kill her one day." Samuel Wilson nodded in agreement. I shuddered. I didn't hear anything else after that. Michael Gray is Beijing's crown prince. But last night, I literally whipped him until his back was covered in red marks. Jessica was also trembling. Maybe because she was remembering what she had done that morning. We looked at each other and silently mouthed, "Run." We carefully closed the door, but before leaving, we saw Michael Gray opening his phone. He zoomed in on the photo I sent him. His eyes narrowed. Jessica and I tiptoed away as quietly as possible. Just as we reached the hallway, the club manager appeared, smiling brightly. "Miss Banks, we're our gentlemen to your satisfaction." I broke out in a cold sweat. Hearing footsteps from inside the suite, I yanked Jessica's hand and bolted. We ran like crazy, practically reenacting Temple Run in real life. Only after locking ourselves inside Jessica's apartment did we collapse onto the sofa, panting. "What do we do?" Jessica looked like she was about to cry. I even made him record a little video for me last night. He refused, and I laughed at him for being fake pure. "I'm dead." To be honest, the way we were acting, this wasn't heroine behavior at all. This was evil villainous material, the kind that dies horribly in the novel's final chapter. I gulped. But seriously, why did they pretend to be poor? Their roommates clearly knew their real identities. Why hide it from us? Jessica didn't know either, until she saw Joanna West's latest social media post. It was a video of Michael Gray and Samuel Wilson inside the suite. Caption: "The two brothers made a bet and both lost. Jessica and I." Wait, was Joanna West's so-called younger sister still in school? Even though Gray family and Wilson family weren't in the same social class as us, I had still heard of them. But neither of them had a little sister, and Joanna West didn't look anything like them. Back in high school, she had been our classmate. Her family wasn't wealthy, and she used to cry all the time about how her roommates isolated her. Jessica, with her heroic spirit, had always pulled me along to take care of her, until we caught her talking badly about each other behind our backs. She had tried to drive a wedge between Jessica and me. Jessica was furious and confronted her. Joanna squatted down and cried. Everyone assumed Jessica was bullying her. After that, our relationship with her completely fell apart. After high school, she failed to get into Beijing University and went to a film academy instead. With her young and pure image, she eventually became a minor celebrity. Jessica's eyes turned red. She really did like Samuel Wilson. Since the first day of university, she had dragged me to watch him play basketball. That was why, when she found out he had no money, she chose to take care of him. She even saved money to buy him things. My heart turned cold. Even if Joanna was lying, the fact that they deceived us remained. I patted Jessica's shoulder. There are plenty of fish in the sea. She sniffed. Shut up. I'm more upset about the car I saved up to buy for him. Think I can get it back? Should have never put it under his name. I let out a sigh of relief. Then, a loud knock on the door. We froze. Outside, a cold voice laughed. Maura Banks opened the door. We looked at each other. Open it. Me, no. Jessica gulped. If you don't open it, then I'm not opening it either. Michael Gray had no patience. With a single kick, he knocked the door open. Jessica looked at me with tears in her eyes. That was my door. I felt guilty. Michael Gray strode over and picked me up. As he carried me out, we passed the elevator. Samuel Wilson was storming into Jessica's apartment. I was worried. Michael must have noticed because he chuckled lazily. Don't worry about her. Worry about yourself first. He stuffed me into the car and drove way too fast. The moment we entered the apartment, he pinned me against the door. Break up. Then, through gritted teeth, and you went to see male models? Without waiting for my answer, he swiftly stripped off his shirt. Are they better looking than me? I honestly shook my head. Not really. He let out a furious laugh. Then why break up? I swallowed hard. This was the first time I'd seen Michael Gray this angry. Usually, even with his bad temper, he never got so mad that the veins on his forehead bulged. I carefully said, how else would I have known they weren't as good looking as you? Michael Gray froze. The anger on his face vanished in an instant. After a pause, he mumbled that actually makes some sense. Then he got mad again. Don't think I'm forgiving you. Tonight, wolf ears or wolf tail? Blindfolded or not? But before I forgive you, I get to pick. His red-rimmed eyes stared at me, looking both furious and familiar. I let out a breath of relief. Then he asked, did you see or hear anything at the club just now? I blinked. Huh? He smirked, slowly pulling a leather vest with intricate cutouts from the closet. Then, without hesitation, he shrugged off his shirt and put it on. Nothing, never mind. The next day, after class, Joanna West blocked our way. She sneered. You two haven't broken up yet? What? Still clinging onto your golden tickets? Let me tell you, Michael Gray is about to get engaged. And Samuel Wilson had lunch with me yesterday. We weren't dumb enough to believe her completely, but Jessica still walked up and slapped her. Are you proud of being a homewrecker? That slap was for the false accusation you made 3 years ago. I was publicly reprimanded, isolated by my classmates. I should have hit you back then. You think I'm desperate for him? Fine. I don't want him anymore. Behind her, Samuel Wilson arrived with a dark expression. He grabbed Jessica's wrist. What did you say? Jessica raised a brow. What? Heartbroken. Then she yanked my hand and stormed off. We went to a restaurant. Jessica was furious, angrily stuffing food into her mouth. I kept reminding her to slow down. But then, her family called. Several projects had been suspended. She froze. Then, she let out a cold laugh. That was when Samuel Wilson called. When are you coming back? Jessica, despite her resentment, still went back. I returned to my apartment too. Thinking about Jessica's situation, I decided to break up with Michael Gray for real. That night, I told him. He grabbed my waist tightly, slamming into me. In your dreams? In the middle of the night, I got up. I saw a massive diamond ring sitting in Michael Gray's coat pocket. Michael was sitting on the bed, his pupils slightly contracted, his face cold. I chuckled. For me. He hesitated, no. A few days later, a designer from an event planning company leaked that they were preparing an engagement venue for the Gray family. Meanwhile, Samuel Wilson and Joanna West's lunch photos hit the trending news. Jessica asked me to meet up. Since we couldn't afford to offend them, we had to figure out a plan. After talking, we decided study abroad. I had already been considering it. But since Jessica was here and Michael Gray, I had hesitated. Run, Jessica nodded, run. She went home to grab her passport, while I went back to pack my things. When I arrived home, Michael Gray was sitting on the black leather sofa, half-lidded eyes watching me. Where were you? I stammered. Went shopping with Jessica. He frowned. Stay home more. I scoffed internally. Not pretending anymore. Telling me to stay home, because he was afraid I'd find out about the engagement, right? But on the surface, I nodded obediently. Okay. I handed him the shopping bag. Inside was a watch I bought as a cover-up. He glanced at it, put it aside, then picked me up and carried me upstairs. The next morning, when I woke up, Michael Gray was already dressed. His eyes glowed with satisfaction, clearly in a great mood. Seeing me awake, he leaned over and kissed me. I want to take you somewhere. I glanced at the black alarm clock beside me. It was already afternoon. Panic flashed through my heart. I pretended to be sleepy, curling back under the covers. Not going. He didn't get mad. Instead, he reached out and brushed a messy strand of hair from my face. All right, you can sleep a little longer. I'll send you an address tonight, and you can come over then. I nodded obediently. Okay. His gaze softened. The sound of the car driving away faded. I immediately got out of bed, my feet touching the floor. After confirming through the floor-to-ceiling window that Michael Gray had completely left, I quickly changed into a full black sun protective outfit, along with a black sun mask and a black cap completely covering myself from head to toe. It was summer, so this outfit wouldn't look out of place. Grabbing my suitcase, I called Jessica Smith. When I found out she'd been waiting at the airport for ages, I hurriedly hailed a cab and rushed over. When she saw me, she was already sweating anxiously. What took you so long? Good thing Samuel Wilson left early this morning. I was flustered too, but luckily we managed to board the plane without any trouble. Before leaving, we threw away our SIM cards. Whatever reaction Michael Gray and Samuel Wilson would have once they discovered we had escaped, it was none of our concern anymore. All we knew was that in Y Country, a place famous for its handsome men, 2 new foreign students had arrived, destined to spend their breaks admiring good-looking guys. 3 years later, on the day of our graduation, Jessica Smith received news that Samuel Wilson and Michael Gray were getting married. She was so furious that she insisted on dragging me to a bar. To cheer her up, I had no choice but to go with her. But as soon as we sat down, Jessica suddenly spat out her drink. I followed her gaze and saw a man standing before us, dressed in a crisp white shirt, an earring glinting on his earlobe. Tall, broad shoulders, a slim waist, he looked to be in his early 20s. But the most shocking thing was his face. It was identical to Michael Gray's. Jessica and I instinctively tried to get up. Just then, the manager walked over and introduced him as a male model named Raymond Bigelow. He even showed me his ID, proving that he was from the same country as us, and that his name was indeed Raymond Bigelow. I was still skeptical, until I noticed a small mole on the side of his nose. Michael Gray didn't have that mole. Jessica let out a relieved sigh. Seeing how tense I was, she patted my shoulder. Relax, it's not him. I thought about it and agreed. Michael Gray had a terrible temper. If this really were him, there was no way he would be so calm facing me. Plus, didn't the news just report that he was about to get married? He absolutely wouldn't be here. There were over 100 countries in the world. No way such a coincidence could happen. Jessica and I finally let our guard down. The so-called puppy model was incredibly obedient. No matter what Jessica asked him to do, he agreed without hesitation. We were completely reassured. Michael Gray, with his rotten temper, could never pull this off in a million years. Watching the model tear up after choking on his drink, I silently pulled out my ancient iPhone 6s. After years of use, it was covered in scratches, the screen was full of streaks, and the back casing was peeling. But I couldn't bear to replace it. Ever since Jessica and I fled abroad, we had to cut ties with our families to avoid being discovered by Michael Gray and Samuel Wilson. That meant no more financial support from our parents. For 3 years, we juggled studying and working in restaurants to make ends meet. Now that we were finally flying home tomorrow, I stared at the model, mesmerized by his beauty under the dim bar lights. To be honest, everyone knew I was a shameless flirt. Overcome by lust, I decided to spend some of my savings before heading back. So, after setting aside enough money for my return, I prepared to tip the model with the rest. Hearing this, the puppy model gave me a meaningful smile. Sure. Thank you, sis. I watched as his thin lips curved slightly. For a moment, I was dazed. By the time I snapped back to reality, he had already pulled out his brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max and displayed his payment QR code. Gritting my teeth, I transferred all my remaining money to him. Seeing my trembling hand, he chuckled. What's wrong? Regretting it. I waved it off, feigning ease. Of course not. Then, I leaned in, eyes twinkling. Listen up, my family is loaded. When you go back home, come find me in hiking. I'll take care of you. His expression darkened slightly. All right. After speaking, he glanced at his phone, where a notification of my $3,000 transfer appeared. Smirking, he said, Sis, you should come to places like this less often. Money isn't easy to earn these days. I looked at my hands, faintly calloused. Memories of washing dishes in restaurant kitchens, surviving on stale bread, and nearly passing out from hunger flooded back. Tears welled up in my eyes as I sighed. You're right. He observed me for a moment before adding, there's another reason, too. I blinked in confusion. What reason? He said nonchalantly. Frequenting places like this, it'll make you go deaf. I was stunned. Huh? I've never heard of that. My fiancé went once. I told her not to go again. But she didn't listen, couldn't even hear me. So he was heartbroken too, huh? For some reason, Michael Gray suddenly came to mind. He had also told me never to look for male models again. I patted Raymond's shoulder. As a fellow human, I understood. He fell silent, and I took another look at him. Though his face resembled Michael Gray's, his aura was entirely different. Michael Gray had always been short-tempered around me, but I tolerated him because he was handsome, strong, and well, lasted hours in bed. I always treated him like a pampered golden canary. But the one thing he never learned was how to be gentle. On a whim, I reached out and gently ran my fingers over the model's strong arm through his silk shirt. He watched me leisurely, then smiled. Seeing that, I said directly, "Relax, sis won't do anything to you." Jessica and I both had a thing for cleanliness. Even though times had changed, we still preferred our men clean. That's why we ended up keeping our school's top heartthrobs, Samuel Wilson and Michael Gray, because they were clean. It wasn't about discriminating against certain professions. We just liked to joke around. But when it came to actually doing something, we weren't that bold. Checking the time, I realized it was getting late. We had a flight to catch in the morning. Just thinking about going home to eat mapo tofu, braised pork, roast duck, white-cut chicken, spicy fried chicken, and stewed pork knuckles made me swallow hard. 3 years. What kind of life had I been living? I stood up, patted his hand, and said, "Sis is leaving now. If fate allows, we'll meet again." As I turned to go, he suddenly pulled out his phone and transferred me $300. I frowned, puzzled. Before I could ask, he said in a cold tone, "Take it and buy yourself some hand cream, sis. My custom-made silk shirt is all pilled because of you." I glanced at his sleeve. Well, damn. He was right. Jessica burst into laughter. My face turned red with embarrassment. I glared at the model in frustration. Seriously. I just tipped him so much, and now I regretted it. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Grabbing Jessica, who was still laughing hysterically, I stormed out of the bar. Even outside, Jessica kept laughing. I finally snapped, "Laugh one more time. I dare you." She wiped the tears from her eyes, struggling to hold back her giggles. "More banks, oh more banks, I never thought you'd sink this low." Ha ha ha. Annoyed, I shot her a glare and jumped onto my bicycle. Jessica stopped laughing too, after all. Riding a bike while laughing just meant swallowing the cold night air. Why country's nights were freezing. We pressed the crosswalk button, exhaling into our hands to keep warm. Just then, a gray Lamborghini pulled up beside us. The window rolled down, revealing none other than the male model from the bar earlier. "Hey, sis, you're heading this way too." What a coincidence. Jessica and I instantly froze. Since when were male models this rich? A Lamborghini wasn't exactly cheap. But then I remembered the manager saying he was highly experienced. He must have been in the industry for years. With looks like his, it wasn't surprising that he made good money. Thinking about the $3,000 I had just transferred to him, my heart ached. About that tip I gave you earlier. He raised an eyebrow. "You're not thinking of taking it back, are you?" I clenched my teeth. Of course not. Even if I had originally intended to ask for it back, there was no way I could admit it now, not with that expression on his face. Without hesitation, I pressed the green light button and rode off with Jessica, pedaling furiously back to our apartment. To be honest, I was devastated. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. Crying while cycling was dangerous. You wouldn't be able to see the road properly. That night, I drowned my sorrow in food, stuffing down 3 pieces of rock-hard bread until I nearly choked to death. Luckily, Jessica noticed in time and poured a whole bottle of water down my throat. Shaken but determined, I knew we couldn't stay abroad any longer. So, we packed our things overnight and caught an early flight home the next morning. The moment the plane landed, Jessica and I gazed teary-eyed at the familiar city skyline. In these past 3 years, we had never truly stopped thinking about this place. I even remember crying my eyes out in front of the embassy. But now, we were finally back. Jessica, wasting no time, immediately ordered 50 meals from a food delivery app. The Chinese couple standing behind us looked on in shock. "Young lady, are you throwing a welcome party?" Jessica waved them off. "Nope, it's all for me." Dragging our luggage toward the airport exit, we exchanged a knowing smile. "We're back, baby." At that moment, my phone rang. It was my dad's cheerful voice. "Sweetheart, did you land yet?" Tears welled up in my eyes. While we were abroad to avoid being tracked by Michael Gray, Jessica and I had barely dared to call home. We only phoned our parents once a year, borrowing random tourists' phones while traveling. "We're back. Dad, are you and Mom picking me up?" There was a pause on the other end. Then I heard my mom's voice in the background, for a bamboo winning hand. My dad stammered nervously. "Of course. We're on our way." I let out a cold laugh. Don't even try to fool me, old man. I just heard Mom playing mahjong. Caught red-handed, my dad coughed awkwardly. I sent the driver instead. He's in a red Alfred convertible. I was stunned. Before I left the country, my family only had a small Mercedes. Since when could we afford such an expensive car? Could it be? Had my wish of dad become a financial tycoon actually come true? Was my life flat and retired dream about to be realized? Excited, I quickly told Jessica. No worries, you go ahead. My brother arranged for someone to pick me up. We waved at each other and walked toward the 2 luxury cars waiting ahead. As I walked, I was already plotting how to convince my dad to hand the car over to me. With a proud expression, I opened the car door and climbed in. Let's go home. Thinking back on my 3 years of suffering, my 5 years of heartbreak, and my 8 years of dry bread, I swore this time I was taking back everything that belonged to me. Feeling sentimental, I rolled down the car window and glanced over at Jessica. She had just gotten into the black Mercedes next to mine. We exchanged a look, dreaming about our glorious future back home. But then, we turned to look at the driver. Just as I was about to tell him to start driving, I caught a glimpse of the rearview mirror. Michael Gray, a cigarette between his lips, was looking straight at me with a smirk. At the same time, Samuel Wilson turned around from the driver's seat of Jessica's car. Baby, long time no see. Jessica nearly fainted on the spot, and I let out a blood-curdling scream. Michael Gray, clearly pleased by my reaction, curled his lips into a satisfied smile. Sis, welcome back. I stared at the small mole on his nose and nearly passed out. Damn, he looked exactly like that male model from last night at the bar. Do you like it? He chuckled. I had it done just for you. What Raymond Bigelow? It was Michael Gray all along. I knew something felt off. This man would use any trick in the book. Unlike Samuel Wilson, who at least didn't put on an elaborate act. Michael Gray's acting skills were so good he could have been a movie star. I stumbled over my words, trying to threaten him. You faked official documents. I am calling the police. He laughed, actually laughed. Maura, do you have any evidence? Besides, that was a Y country ID. I wanted to cry but had no tears left. Michael reached out to grab me, and I instantly yanked the car door open to escape. Jessica, finally snapping out of her daze, also bolted from the car. Michael frowned, got out, and shoved me back into the car. I immediately crawled out through the other door. Just as I was about to grab Jessica and run, Samuel Wilson scooped her up, threw her into the car, locked the doors, and drove off. Sis, I'm sorry, I can't save you now. Meanwhile, Michael pinned me down against the seat, tying my hands with his tie. So now you're scared, huh? He sneered, his voice laced with mockery. Weren't you the one telling me yesterday to come find you in hiking? And that you'd take care of me? His eyes burned with resentment as he gritted his teeth. Tell me, Maura, how many guys have you said that to? I wanted to cry so badly. When we arrived at my old apartment, the same place I had fled 3 years ago, everything inside remained exactly as I had left it. Michael tossed me onto the bed, his expression dark and unreadable. I struggled desperately, but he grabbed the back of my head and crushed his lips against mine. His grip was so tight that the veins on his hands bulged, and his kiss was so forceful that it left me breathless. His fingers slowly trailed up my skirt, heat radiating from his touch. Tears welled up in my eyes as I pushed against his shoulders. Michael, he hummed softly, his tone unexpectedly gentle. He kissed away the tears at the corner of my eyes, gaze dropping to my lips before darkening. It's too early to cry now. When I was with Michael Gray, he had always been arrogant, cold, and ruthless. I thought I was the only one who had seen his vulnerable side. Turns out, it was all a lie. Jessica and we were just a game to them. We knew their world well. Everyone in their circle was proud, arrogant, untouchable. But when we finally left them, instead of letting us go, they turned into sore losers. But why? Why the hell did we have to be entangled with them forever? Jessica Smith and I were never some delicate, innocent heroines. The reason we had avoided them all these years was simple. We knew our greatest weakness, our families. Michael Gray and Samuel Wilson were the type of people who, once they set their minds to something, could easily crush our family businesses. Besides, I had always wanted to study abroad, so when the opportunity arose, I seized it and fled with Jessica. I reached out, stopping Michael's fingers from wandering further. Michael, you've been engaged for 3 years now, and you're about to get married. Do you have no shame? Sure, I bullied you back then, but you were the one who deceived me first, weren't you? He was silent for a moment, then suddenly chuckled. Sis, do you really not know? The person who got engaged to me back then was you. And as for the so-called upcoming wedding, if I hadn't leaked that news, would you have come back? His voice deepened. The night of our engagement, you ran away. What was I supposed to do? I had to complete the engagement banquet alone. Do you know what people whispered behind my back after that? I froze, my curiosity getting the better of me. What did they say? He hurriedly pulled down the zipper at my waist, leaning in to whisper in my ear, his gaze dark and unreadable. Of course, they laughed at me, saying my wife ran away. I am speechless. For a moment, I didn't know if he was telling the truth, but I knew Michael Gray wouldn't bother lying about something like this. Given his status, if he had really been engaged to someone else, I would have found out eventually. Then why did you pretend to be a bartender at the bar? I looked straight at him. He chuckled. What do you think? Seeing me avoid his gaze, he bit my earlobe gently. The first time I saw you on the basketball court, I fell for you. But you were always so afraid of me. I glared at him. Well, who told him to have such a bad reputation at school? He lifted me effortlessly, his lowered eyes tinged with red. Maura, I missed you. That night, I reached out to an old friend from our social circle, someone who had also studied abroad, with Jessica and me. I asked about the details of the Gray family's engagement arrangement. It turned out, Michael Gray had indeed proposed the engagement himself. When my parents saw the 20% stake in the Gray family business offered, as part of the marriage contract, they nearly packed me up and delivered me to the Gray family on the spot. That night, Michael had planned to propose to me officially, but by the time he returned to pick me up, I had already left the country. Samuel Wilson had also been planning to propose that same night. That night, both young Master Gray and young Master Wilson drove to the airport to chase after you. But they got into a car accident and were hospitalized for over a month. As for Joanna West, she originally signed with an entertainment company. But after being caught in a scandal with Samuel Wilson at a film wrap party, she was exposed for multiple past controversies and blacklisted from the industry. I remained silent for a long time before finally telling Jessica Smith everything. On the way back, I passed by the study. The walls were covered with photos of me from my time abroad in White Country. A calendar wall was filled with handwritten notes in bold, untamed handwriting, a record of 3 years of longing. I thought about the dishwashing job that only required half an hour of work per day. I thought about the mysterious scholarships that always appeared whenever Jessica and I struggled to pay tuition. I thought about that black-clad figure who shielded me during a shooting overseas. I couldn't help but smile. Jessica and I were never naive girls. Yes, Michael Gray and Samuel Wilson had deceived us. But even if we had confronted them back then, as long as they refused to let go, there was nothing we could have done. Leaving had never been our only option. It was just that we happened to want to study abroad at the same time. So, we went with the flow. Back in my room, I watched as Michael Gray packed my suitcase for me. I walked over and hugged his waist from behind. His eyes lit up. What? You want me now? The next morning, Michael Gray still sent me home. Before I got out of the car, he turned his head slightly, his long fingers resting on the steering wheel. Maura, don't leave again. I won't force you. Okay, I replied. His lips curled up as he looked at me. His expression relaxed. He leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to my lips, his breath warm against my skin. Remember to message me. Don't ignore me. I nodded. But when I got home, there were no warm hugs from my parents, just an empty house. Turns out, my parents had gone on a trip to Europe. Just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, my dad's assistant called me. Young President Banks, what time will you be arriving at the office tomorrow morning? I need to schedule your meetings accordingly. I was stunned. After mumbling a vague response, I immediately called my dad. He chuckled. Well, you see, your mom and I haven't gone on vacation together in 3 years. We deserve a break. And since you're back from studying abroad, it's time for you to start taking over the company. Sweetheart, your mom and I will always love you. In the background, my mom's voice rang out. Honey, come here, there's a crab. Coming. The call ended. I gritted my teeth. But at least with my parents gone, I could call Michael Gray anytime I wanted. We never brought up the engagement again, as if we had silently agreed to let it go. But every single day, he would call me sis over and over again. At first, I was too busy handling my new job to respond to him. But then, during a business meeting, my phone suddenly pinged. I opened it, and nearly died on the spot. It was a photo of Michael Gray, wearing nothing but a sheer apron. The top half of his body was covered, but his broad shoulders, narrow waist, and well, let's just say, certain assets were clearly visible. My face turned beet red, and I immediately locked my screen. Thank God. I hadn't accidentally projected my phone onto the conference screen. Since when had he become such a shameless tease? Was this because I agreed to give our relationship a try? Compared to his short-tempered self from 3 years ago, it seemed like he was now trying to keep me with a different approach. When I vaguely hinted at this to Jessica Smith, she gasped, "You just figured that out." He literally came to ask me what kind of guys you like, and I told him flirty ones. Me, traitor. She quickly raised her hands in defense. Hey, no way. He transferred me $10 million and I gave it all to you. I suddenly remembered Jessica had indeed transferred me a large sum of money a few days ago. I couldn't help but laugh. No wonder Michael Gray had been acting so weird lately. I stood up and patted Jessica's shoulder. Come on, let's go shopping. My treat. Jessica beamed. I've been waiting for you to say that. Now that you're young President Banks, don't forget about us peasants. That night, I finally had time to reply to Michael's messages. Opening the chat, I was bombarded with a flood of unread texts. MG, did you like it? Why aren't you saying anything? Are you shy? Do you want to come over now? I'm already waiting, sis. Maura Banks, you're too much. You've been ignoring me for days. Sis, I have a fever. Then, a few more photos arrived, each taken from a different angle, one of him cooking. A light sheen of sweat highlighting the defined muscles of his arms. Another of him carrying a dish to the table. I was speechless. I began to seriously question, what exactly was the relationship between us now? Was it really just a simple interaction? Because no matter how I looked at it, this didn't feel like a normal relationship. I suddenly recalled that time 3 years ago, when I had kept Michael Gray. Back then, he had sent me a photo too. It was the day I was chatting with my senior. In the picture, his eyes were dazed, his clothes damp and clinging to his body. He was sprawled across the sofa, his jawline smooth and sharp. Sis, can you come pick me up? That day, I had only managed to say a quick goodbye to my senior before rushing off to get him. But the moment we got home, his eyes turned red and he looked at me with pitiful grievance. Confused, I asked him what was wrong. He just glanced at me. Weren't you on a date with another man? Did I not do something right? I totally fell for that trick. I comforted him for ages. Eventually, though, I ran out of patience and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. The next second, my phone rang. Busy? I replied. I've been busy taking over the company. There's a lot to learn. He chuckled. Want me to teach you? My eyes lit up. Michael Gray was exceptional in this field. Forget about the Gray family's training since childhood. Just look at how much the family business had flourished under his leadership. A single sentence from him could be the answer that countless CEOs had racked their brains over for years. Okay. He let out a mocking laugh. The next morning, when I arrived at the company, Michael Gray was already there. By the end of the day, I had learned a lot. But before I could leave, Michael Gray lifted me onto my desk. Sis, you haven't paid me for today's tutoring session yet. By the time we walked out of the office, Michael said he was going to buy something. So I waited for him downstairs. Then, a person in a teddy bear mascot suit suddenly approached me and handed me a single red rose. Surprised, I thanked him, but he simply gestured for me to keep walking toward the park across from the business building. There was a long flight of stairs leading down, and as I walked, more teddy bear mascots appeared, each handing me another rose. I began to suspect something. And sure enough, when I reached the open space in the park, the last bear held out a ring box. He opened it. Inside was a diamond ring. Then, he removed the mascot head. His dark hair was slightly damp from sweat, sticking faintly to his forehead. Maura, I prepared this for you 3 years ago. Looking at him now, I suddenly felt a lump in my throat. No wonder this setup was so corny. But the ring was really beautiful. His eyes brightened as the lights from the business tower behind us lit up. I turned to look. Our names were displayed on the building. So? He smiled. Are you really going to keep me for life? I remembered the first time I met Michael Gray. Less clouded, I had agreed to take care of him. Back then, he had lowered his eyes. But how long would you really keep me? I still have a family like that. Feeling soft-hearted, I had promised to keep him forever. Not long after, Samuel Wilson proposed to Jessica Smith as well. At our request, Jessica and I had our weddings on the same day. We even filmed a best friends getting married on the same day video. Surprisingly, it got a lot of views. The wealthy lady who attended our wedding, that was Samuel Wilson's mother. After a long, eventful day, the wedding finally ended. Michael and I stared at each other. Finally, I blinked. So, what's supposed to happen next? He let out a soft laugh, undid his luxury watch and tugged at his tie. Then, he threw me over his shoulder and tossed me onto the soft, massive bed. Next, he smirked. Next comes the part that's not suitable for children. Me? Did he have to say it so bluntly? Pinned beneath him, his deep eyes glowed with restrained desire. His high nose bridged thin lips and the slight smirk, it was all too lethal. As he leaned in closer, I suddenly thought of something. I shoved him away. Maybe because he wasn't expecting it, he actually fell back. His expression darkened instantly. Maura, what now? He gritted out. I slipped on my fur-lined satin slippers, ran to my suitcase, and started a video call with Jessica Smith. Michael tried to stop me, his temple veins twitching. You to have a good relationship, I get it. But do you really need to call each other on your wedding night? I swatted his hand away and gave him a confused look. What the hell are you talking about? What's going on in your head all day? At that moment, my phone rang. Jessica's video call. I quickly answered. In the corner of the screen, Samuel Wilson sat on the bed, wrapped in a blanket, looking just as annoyed. But Jessica and I were thrilled. Hurry, let's start. Michael frowned, about to say something, until he saw me pulling out stacks of red envelopes. I carefully counted the money inside. Jessica was doing the same, opening gift envelopes and checking the amount. Some had checks from the elders, while the rest were gifts from friends and guests. The more we opened, the more excited we became. Only after an hour did we finally hang up. The second I set my phone down, Michael tossed me onto the bed. I blinked, about to resist, but he smacked my butt. Mora, you better stay put. Days later, I sat on the couch, my toes resting on Michael's leg. His eyes were red-rimmed. Sis, stop messing around. I sneered. Michael, you're the one who needs to endure this. That night, Jessica sent me a message, wanna run? I was at my limit. He was insane. How had I ever thought he was cool and aloof? He wasn't a high and mighty prince, he was a complete beast. Just as I was about to reply, the sleeping man next to me suddenly stretched out his long fingers and snatched my phone. He glanced at the screen and let out a low chuckle. Then, he called Samuel Wilson. Control your wife. Stop trying to take mine and run away. Though, I guess I can't blame her. President Wilson's charm is pretty average. I flinched. Then, I heard Samuel Wilson's cold voice on the other end. That's none of your business, young Master Gray. Then, he turned to Jessica. Wife, you're 3 months pregnant and you still want to run, HMM? Do you love playing so much? Fine, then let's. Didn't you say you wanted me to lick the milk off your foot? Jessica's mortified scream cut him off. Pervert. The call ended. I blinked. Jessica's pregnant. I'm going to be a godmother. Wait, did I just hear what I think I heard? Before I could process it, Michael scooped me up, tilting my chin so I had to look up at him. He chuckled. Later, standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, he nibbled my earlobe and whispered, Mora, you're so obedient. My face flushed. Before I passed out from exhaustion, I felt a 15-carat flawless diamond necklace pressed into my palm. Then, his lips kissed my hand. Mora, I love you. Extra chapter. A few years later, Jessica Smith held the hand of a 5-year-old boy, while I carried my little girl, dressed in a fluffy princess dress. It was a rare holiday, so we decided to take the kids out for some fun. The 2 little childhood sweethearts were left in the children's play area, while Jessica and I sat to the side, ordered to fruit teas, and gossiped about Michael Gray and Samuel Wilson. This morning, there was a news report about Samuel Wilson falling in love with a celebrity at first sight in his company. EW, TSK. I told you, men are all trash. The more we talked, the more enthusiastic we became. At times we widened our eyes in shock, other times we exchanged mysterious glances. The wealthy ladies sitting nearby were practically dying of curiosity, eager to stretch their ears over to eavesdrop. After gossiping, Jessica and I were convinced we were the only decent people left in the house. So satisfying. That night, Michael Gray cautiously asked me, Wife? That punk Samuel Wilson is fighting with his wife again. If you ask me if they end up divorcing, I yawned. If she divorces him, then I'll divorce you too. Michael Gray immediately shut up. Then, he silently walked to the side and gritted his teeth while making a phone call. If you dare to get a divorce, I will personally ruin you. On the other end, Samuel Wilson was silent for a long time. The hell is wrong with you? What does my divorce have to do with you? Besides, she's the one who wants to divorce me, not the other way around. I'm literally kneeling on a damn washboard right now. That gossiping paparazzo who spread rumors about me cheating. I already beat the crap out of him. I just had something in my eye and blinked a few times. And now they're claiming I had a spark with some random woman. Instead of helping, you're saying this nonsense? How is this any of your business? Michael Gray glanced at me, scoffed coldly, and said, The hell, it's not my business. This has everything to do with me. After hanging up, he cautiously wrapped me in his arms. Wife, am I still not as important to you as that woman? I smirked. Well, I did meet her first, baby. Michael gritted his teeth. Compared to the wild and unruly teenager he once was, he now carried an air of maturity and composure. But those sharp eyes of his had only grown colder over the years. Except at home. At home, whenever he looked at me and our daughter, his gaze was always soft. As an only child, I was destined to inherit the family business. I had been busy my whole life. After our daughter was born, Michael Gray became the primary caretaker. While I worked during the day, he brought our nanny, Lita, to the company and set up a nursery next to his office. Whenever he had a free moment, he would go check on our daughter. My mom had repeatedly told me to spend more time with my child, but I was just too busy. Everything I had learned abroad, I applied back home. Under my management, our company had grown 10 times larger than when my father had run it. My father sighed many times, saying, "Overseas education really makes a difference." But honestly, I didn't think it was that big of an advantage. All I did was redesign our product packaging and introduce more female-oriented designs. My dad's products had always been high quality and well-reputed, so with better marketing, success followed naturally. Michael Gray never brought our daughter to the office to disturb me, and I rarely had time to spend with her. Only today, since her early childhood class was on break, did I finally take her out. Jessica Smith, despite her carefree attitude, had climbed the ranks in her own family business, becoming a high-level director. Her designs were bold and innovative, and she had achieved remarkable success. Looking at Michael Gray's pitiful expression now, I unexpectedly felt a bit soft-hearted. I reached out, hooked my arms around his neck, and whispered something in his ear. His eyes instantly lit up. The night was still young, and so was the rest of our lives.